سبيل الدموع سبيل مريح تنهدى يا صاحي كي تستريح نور على مر الزمان تألقا وأضاء للدنيا طريقا مشرقا
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. The 31st prohibition that's taken lightly by many, that's mentioned in the book by Sheikh Muhammad Salih al-Munajjid Faqallahu Asrahu, is trading after the second call to prayer. So when it says the second adhan here, it's talking about the adhan when the imam gets on the mimbar. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع. روح. ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. You who believe, when the call is proclaimed for the salah on the day of Friday, come to the remembrance of Allah and leave off business. That is better for you if you did know. And anything to do with a person's livelihood, his own business, he's working for someone, a person, anything other than business, and he's working anything at all, on the day of judgment other than Jumu'ah, unless it's a necessity. And by necessity we mean like an extreme need, like a person sick, he can't come, or a person has to attend to look after someone else and there's no one else to look after, etc., then that person is allowed not to come. But everyone else who doesn't have a valid excuse needs to come to Jumu'ah. Whether you hear the adhan, which is the norm in the Muslim countries, or you don't hear the adhan but you know it's the time for Jumu'ah and you're able to come for the salah. Some people continue trading in their stores and in front of the mosque even after the second call to prayer. Those who buy from them also share in their guilt, even if they only buy a siwak, and the little toothbrush from the arak tree. According to the Soundest opinion, this sale is invalid. Invalid means it's not correct. You paid for it and you took it, but in reality it's not accepted. It's actually still owned by the other person and the money needs to be returned to you because it's an invalid sale. Some owners of restaurants, bakeries and factories force their employees to work at the time of Jumu'ah prayers. Even if this leads to an apparent increase in earnings, they will ultimately be losers in reality. The employee is obliged to act in accordance with the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق. There is no obedience to a creation if it involves the disobedience of the Creator. So when it's time for Jumu'ah, khalas, there's no option. Your obligation is to go and to pray Salat al-Jumu'ah. Whether you're the boss and you have the choice, or you work for someone, it is an obligation for you to leave. What happens if they don't let you? Firstly, prevention is better than cure. If a person knows that he's going to start a new job, in the interview, mention that on Fridays, I'll need to go for prayers. If you know that there's a masjid close by, tell them approximately how long it will take. Tell them if there's a need, if there's ever a need, which usually there isn't. But if there's a need where you were to go over your lunch break, you can come in early or you can work late, you can make it up, whatever it may be. You work it out before you even start. That way there's no problems. But what happens a lot of the time, some brothers, they start a job, they don't tell their boss they need to get a Jumu'ah, they missed 1 or 2 Jumu'ahs to get in the good books, and then on the 3rd or 4th Jumu'ah they say, look, I need to go for Friday prayers. And then there becomes a problem. And alhamdulillah, most people understand and they know about Salat al-Jumu'ah, and so they're happy to accommodate for that. Especially when it's made clear from the beginning. And on top of the employers understanding and making it easy a lot of time today, alhamdulillah, almost everywhere you go in society today, there's a place for Jumu'ah. Be it a masjid or a center or a community hall or whatever it may be. Sometimes they even rent out church halls in order to pray Salat al-Jumu'ah. Now, so where there's a Salat al-Jumu'ah nearby, it's accessible to you, a person needs to go. The only reason is not if he's got an extremely valid excuse, like he's got a sickness where he can't go, or he needs to attend to another person as part of an emergency, etc. But the excuse of work or I'm earning my rizq or anything like this is not accepted. And if a person says, I'm forced, my boss doesn't let me, and there's absolutely no way that his boss will let him, then it becomes an obligation upon that person to actually leave that job if he can't come to an agreement. If a person working at a place, a factory, in an office, whatever it may be, and there's absolutely no way his boss is going to let him leave to go and pray Salat al-Jumu'ah, then it becomes an obligation for him to leave that job. It becomes an obligation for him to leave that job if there's no compromise. If there's no compromise on the behalf of the boss. But alhamdulillah, as we said, a lot of the messages are close by and a lot of the employers are understanding. So it's usually not that hard, especially when things are agreed on at the beginning. And as a Muslim worker, our job, especially when on Fridays, which is a work day, people know we go and pray. Yani people look at that as, okay, now this person is meant to be a religious person. So this should assist the person in maintaining his religiosity at work, his character, his etiquette, his not performing the haram, etc. at work, so that he can give a good show of Islam to his co-workers and his boss. The last thing that anyone wants is a person who is so consistent in going to Salat al-Jumu'ah, but everything he does at work seems to be of bad character, him doing the haram, etc. So don't give that kind of image to Islam via your actions. And a person, as we said, can't obey the boss. Or if he's the employer, force his workers to work. If a person is working on the day of Jumu'ah, a person owns a factory and he opens on the day of Jumu'ah, or owns an office or whatever, or a store, whatever it may be, on the day of Jumu'ah, and he has Muslim workers, the Muslim male workers are not allowed to work at that time. The Muslim male workers are not allowed to work at that time. If a person is not obliged to go to Jumu'ah, like females or non-Muslims, then if they go to Salat al-Jumu'ah, if they open at the time of Salat al-Jumu'ah, then inshallah there's no issue. If they open at the time of Salat al-Jumu'ah, then inshallah there's no issue, as long as you don't open up in a predominantly Muslim area. On this condition, that you don't open up in a predominantly Muslim area. Why? Because if you live in a predominantly Muslim area, your customers predominantly will be Muslims. So this becomes assisting in the haram, which is not allowed. This becomes assisting in the haram that it's not allowed. But if a person is far away, or it's a predominantly a non-Muslim area, then there's no issue, inshallah, especially if he doesn't say that it's causing any harm or that there's any Muslims working on that day. And there aren't any Muslim customers coming and buying from that person. One funny incident, a lot of the, mashallah, the salawat, Jumu'ah, you have, mashallah, the car park full. And when the car park is full, it can cause problems for the neighbors, especially Muslims that have masajid in between houses or in between shops or whatever it may be. So a few of the masajid now, they have a Muslim outside, and one of the people from the board, or a shura member, or a volunteer, and he's guiding the cars where to park so that it doesn't cause problems for the neighbors. So if they're forced to do that, they're allowed to stand outside for the khutbah, and they'll come inside before the actual salah. They can only do this if there's a necessity. So part of what takes that necessity away is to hire a person to come and do that job. So they say, look, we're only doing it because we can't get anyone else to do it. What we'll do is we'll try and look for someone. Speak to a security company, hire a security guard, 4 hours, $100, whatever it may be, no problem. The people that they hired in order to allow them to pray Salat al-Jumu'ah, the two guards came and they were both Muslims. So they didn't get anywhere. This is not allowed. This is not allowed. Even if you're going to Jumu'ah, but you facilitate for someone else to miss their Jumu'ah, this is not allowed. This is not allowed. And those people that make their money at that time, that is considered haram wealth. Because they're working at a time where it is haram to work. And as we said, that's for the one that Jumu'ah is an obligation upon. One person asked me a question and he said, what about people that have online stores? Do they need to close down their website or whatever it may be? Besides the fact that would be extremely hard to do. They wouldn't need to close down their store. Why? Because they're not directly participating in the buying and selling at that time, nor are they expecting that other Muslims are going to buy and sell at that time. And if they get a customer, why? What's the chances of that being a Muslim that's meant to be at Jumu'ah? Very, very, very low. Now, very low. So for them to be expected to somehow shut their website down or something like that is incorrect. This is talking about you directly being involved or you directly facilitating others to buy and sell at the time of Jumu'ah. So this is not allowed. It's weird as well. You have, this is subhanAllah, sometimes when it comes to ignorance causes people to commit really silly mistakes where they don't know. The most common excuse for not going to Jumu'ah is what? I'm working. And they say, okay, I'm working so that I can't come to Jumu'ah. But Allah said, leave work. So Allah knows that you're going to work. It's not like at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Friday was a public holiday. This is not how it worked. Now, people, they go to work, at time of work, you leave work and then you go back after that. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله. There's no problem after work, after Jumu'ah, then go back and seek what you want from the virtues of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next sin is gambling. Next thing is gambling. القمار والميسر. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون. Allah says, you who believe, intoxicants, all types, gambling, al-ansab, which are the sacrificial altars, and al-azlam, which is when they used to get the arrows and pull out the arrows and try and see which one is the best for good luck. This was something that they used to do, are an abomination, which is a form of shirk. Because how are arrows in a bag going to tell you what's good and what's not good? Naam, are an abomination of shaitan's handiwork, so avoid strictly the abomination in order that you may be successful. Gambling was very common during the Jahiliyyah. One of the most common well-known forms of gambling, and this is the time of the Prophet ﷺ and before that, there would be 10 people would buy a camel, each paying an equal share. Then they would throw down arrows, a form of drawing lots. 7 people would win unequal shares, and 3 would be left empty-handed. So it's like similar to a lotto today. They would buy 10 people a camel, then they would work something and have a game with the arrows. The 7 winners will get certain shares that they knew, and 3 people miss out. This is a game of gambling, and there's many forms of this today as we'll come to know at the end. But all of these things are haram. Nowadays there are many forms of gambling. So we understand, gambling is anything that you put something forward and other people put something forward, and at the end there are winners and there are losers from wealth. If I put money and there's a chance I put money and I don't get anything in return, then this is a form of gambling. I put money, I could win more money or I could lose what I have. This is a form of gambling in any way, shape or form. It doesn't have to be money, it could be anything. It could be a good, it could be a service even. Now all of this is considered haram, where there can be a winner and a loser. And we'll explain why this is important, so they understand that there's some halal types which aren't considered gambling, but some people might mistake them for it. So some of the types include lotteries and raffles in which people pay money to buy numbers. Then the numbers are drawn for first prize, second prize, and so on, for a variety of prizes. This is haram even when it is supposedly done for charity. Any type of lottery or raffle is haram when you have to pay for it. When you have to pay for it. The lotteries make a lot of money. And that's why they're able to give big prizes. Even if it's only a $5 or $10 lottery ticket with the possibility of winning 1, 2, 10, $100 million, it's haram. Even on a smaller scale, which many people look at it as innocent fun or innocent assistance, is raffles, especially for like soccer clubs or football clubs or at schools. You pay $2, you get a raffle ticket, and whoever wins the raffle gets a plate of meat or a tray of meat. Now, this is haram. This is a form of gambling, because you're paying $2 and there's a chance you either win the tray of meat or you don't win anything at all. This is not allowed. This is not allowed. And this happens a lot at schools, happens in a lot of places. This is not allowed. buying a product which includes something unknown, or paying for a number for a draw which will decide who gets what. You know, sometimes you have like mystery boxes. Okay, mystery boxes, they could be in games, they could be for certain products where you, for example, you pay money, and in games it was worse. In games it's actually considered gambling in many countries now, where sometimes let's say you pay $5 in a game. $5 you could end up with like, let's say 1,000 bonus points, or you could get a certain type of shield or gun or health or something, or you could not get anything at all, you could get an empty box. Any games like that in Australia that you guys know of? Fortnite, can you get nothing in Fortnite? Yeah. Fortnite. Can you get a box of nothing in Call of Duty? Give me, you can? You can actually, so you pay money and you get a box of nothing. Okay, see how there's a chance that you can pay money and get a box of nothing? If I'm wrong and they end up telling me in the internet, no, sorry Sheikh, you're wrong, Call of Duty can't, then I'm going to look bad, I'm going to come after you. No? If in a game, and I know overseas they made this illegal. In some countries they made this illegal because that is a form of gambling. If you pay money and there's a chance that you could get nothing, this is gambling. This is gambling because you're not winning at the end of the day. You're not getting anything in return. So this is not allowed. Or even, and these things are so common. These things are so common, and you don't have to be over 18 to do it. When you go, for example, to like a bowling alley, and they have in the like game section, you put like a token or $2 in, and then you play that with the little remote, and the claw goes in and it goes to pick up like a doll or a football or something. This is also a form of gambling. You're putting money in. There's a chance that you can win, and there's a chance that you don't win. Now it's all based on chance. So this is considered haram. Now, if you go to any bowling alley, you see kids 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all ages, adults. They get money off their parents. They put it in and they play. This is what? It's gambling. Now, it's gambling. It's not a matter of allowed or not allowed by law that, they don't say it's gambling or they don't say you have to be over 18. The fact that there's a game based on chance where you put something and there's a chance that you get nothing in return, this is haram. Another modern form of gambling is insurance. This is a big one. Another modern form of gambling is insurance, such as life insurance, car insurance, product insurance, insurance against fire or theft, third-party insurance, comprehensive insurance, and so on. There are so many types of insurance that some singers even insure their voices. This is not even a joke. I wish it was a joke. I haven't heard the voices before, but I know some models, they insure their hands, if they're like a hand model, or some insure their legs, some their feet. There's all types of insurance because the companies know they'll make a lot of money out of it. Why is it a form of gambling to get insurance that you don't need? Because when you're paying money and there's a chance you could get nothing in return, and if I pay $1,000 this year to be insured and I get nothing at the end of the year, what have I done? I've literally lost. If something was to happen, then I'll be covered. If something was to happen, then I'll be covered. The exact same. If I was to win in my $10 lottery ticket, I'll become a millionaire. What's the difference? If a person, if there's types of insurance that you need by law, like comprehensive third party, etc., that's not an issue to have. Or if there's a big likelihood of something, so you need like public liability, etc. These things are possibilities. There are certain fatwa that allow certain insurances based on the probability and based on the need, etc. But that's something specific. But generally speaking, things like health insurance, which is like a person doesn't need to have, or life insurance, all of these are haram. Because you're paying something, you might benefit from it, you might not benefit from it. And once you open up that door of insurance, there's no door that you can close after that. Everything can be justified by the what if factor. Now, what if this happens? What if that happens? If that's the case, a person's going to sit in his home. What tawakkul do you have on Allah Azza wa Jal? Take the means to be safe, and inshallah nothing happens. And you find, subhanallah, most people that get insurance never use their insurance. All the time when they want to use their insurance, there's a problem. maybe in a clause, or they just cancelled their insurance or something like that. And happens. And I always hear this. The most recent one that I heard, there was a family member of mine, and he had insurance. He was going to sell his car, so he cancelled his insurance because he's going to sell his car. Khalas, I don't need my insurance, so he cancelled it. The day or two after he cancelled it, bam, he got hit. His car got hit. Even though it wasn't his fault, but then he has to go and fight with the other company, and then he's got it caused some health issues or health issues that he had. It made it worse, etc. And so now he has to fight day and night with the other person's insurance because he cancelled his own. And the cases that we hear of that are just always over and over again. That's besides the people that never want to use their that never want to use their insurance. I know two people, again, relatives of mine. Both of them had car crashes, but they didn't want to use their insurance. Because if they use their insurance, their premium's going to go up. Their premium will go up. So they said, no, we'll just fix it ourselves. What's the point of having the insurance then? Now we're talking people, these people have had their insurances for over 10, 20 years, some of them, and they literally, alhamdulillah, have never have to use it. But you find in other things in their life, there's things which they have to pay for. Sometimes things for their kids, sometimes things with their own health, etc., that they end up having to pay for. Whereas you find people that don't go to these haram means, it might not seem that they have the dunya protection, but they have the protection from Allah Azza wa Jal. So you find they have tawfiq in their life, they have good health, alhamdulillah, because their bodies have barakah, their children have barakah, their houses have barakah, etc. So you don't find the same problems that a lot of other people have. And this is from the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you try and go against the halal and try and go to the haram, you don't get that tawfiq in your life. Even though you might be looking like you're getting one up in terms of dunya, it's not the case. All of the above are forms of gambling. Nowadays there are even clubs that are diverted. And this is talking about a sheikh that lives in Saudi. Now, imagine if he was to come and go to our masjid, like next door to the masjid, there's a TAB. All of the above are forms of gambling. Nowadays there are even clubs that are devoted exclusively to gambling, in which there are so-called green tables, the relay tables, just for people to commit sin. Other forms of gambling include betting on horse races and other sports, and he was talking about the poker machines, and the like in amusement centers, etc. طيب. When we speak about gambling in Australia, this is a bigger problem. Now, we're not just going to get off what the book says. In Australia, we know that this is a massive problem. Anyone know how much is spent on gambling a year, approximately? In Australia? You want to give me a number? 1 billion? Very modest, mashallah. Still modest. A little bit over. 23, just under 23.7 billion. Just under 23.7 billion. That was in the years 2016, 2017. And that's in Australia. And that is from responsiblegambling.vic and victoria.gov.au. They called the website what? Responsible gambling. How can it be responsible? How can it be responsible if it's taking from people $23.7 billion in 1 year? In 1 year. Is everyone a millionaire? Is everyone a billionaire? No. So the vast majority of people that are gambling are who? Average people with mortgages, with bills, with rent to pay, with children to look after, with schooling, etc. Where are these people going to get their money? From ABC News, and this is from another report. And this is from 2011, and the report that it was taken from was from 2010. It says around 70% of Australians participated in some form of gambling. Around 70% of Australians. That's a massive number. 70% of people had some form of gambling, whether it was a lottery ticket, a scratchy, whatever it may be. That's a massive number. And I don't think it's gotten any less from 2010. It costed the individual gambler, so that how many billion, but this was in 2010. I think it was around about 20 billion back then. From 2010, about 20 billion. Over the amount of gamblers, it costed the average gambler 1,500 in losses per year. The average gambler, 1,500 in losses per year. This, when you say 1,500 to the average person, or if you hear it, doesn't sound like that much. But if you look at the, for example, end of the year, most people don't save at the end of the year in more than $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. I'm talking about the average person. Maybe they save more than $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. You're talking about after their expenses, sometimes half or at least a third of what they would usually save at the end of that year after expenses. That becomes a big amount. When you talk about people that nowadays in Australia not being able to turn on their air conditioning in summer or their heating in winter because they can't pay their bills, that becomes a big number. When you talk about people starting to catch public transport because the petrol's too high, this becomes a big number. Now, the cost of living is going up. This 1,500 becomes very handy. I remember when the global financial crisis was happening and it hit Australia a little bit, and you weren't seeing as much buildings going up and house renovations. Every pub and club in Australia that I would drive by would be getting renovated. Every single one would be getting upgraded or renovated. Why? These places are still making money. These people are sucking people dry. And they're allowed to happen. They're allowed to keep on going. And this is unfortunate, but this is what happens when you throw gambling in the face of the people. What sport do you like, Saab? Driving? Rugby. Rugby league. Oh yeah, rugby league. Okay, good. I thought you were going to say rugby union. A'udhu billah. Now, rugby league. How many, every team now has a different gambling company on the back of its shirt. And the only thing that comes up is, bet this and this is paying $2 and this is paying $1.90 and this guy is paying $1.20, and then the bottom bet, and then at the end of all the ads they say what? Gamble responsibly. Why? On Hoxton Park Road, what do you just see? All of these colorful lights. You're driving, you get attracted, all of these colorful lights. What are those colorful lights? All the people playing the pokers inside. MashaAllah, so many beautiful different colors. Now it's out in the open. You can expect people are going to go there. You can expect people to go there. You go on walk on the street, on the main shopping strips, at TAB. Okay, what do you think this is going to do to our society? It causes the inquisitive person. He'll just say, "Look, I'm just going to go $50, $20. I'll just have a bit of fun." Most people, in society, alhamdulillah, not as much within the Muslims, but in society, most people, they want to, for example, have some form of recreation. Unfortunately, a lot of them choose alcohol. When they go to, for example, the pub, what's always at the pub? There's always a place for you to gamble. There's always a room for you to gamble. There's always something for you to do. Alcohol and gambling is not a good mix. It's only $50. When we were younger, I had a friend. He would go to the pub, and it started off very innocent. $20, $30, just nothing too much. Then it became $50 with $5 hits, $100, $5 hits, and to the extent where he was taking his father's credit card. He would take his father's credit card, go and pull out money at the ATM, and start playing. And he's young, and the addiction happened very quickly. The addiction happened very quickly. Allahu Alam what happened to him after that, we lost contact. But the addiction happened very quickly, where within a few weeks, he was going daily. He was going daily. This is problematic. Now, because you put $50 is nothing. Okay, you get out with your friends, you spend $50 on food, no problem. So in your mind, it's nothing. But $50 after $50 after $50 a day, that's $350 in 1 week. And then imagine you go into bigger hits. And then when a person wins something, and this is what kills the people, when they actually win something and get something in return. If gambling and insurance and all of these types of businesses weren't as profitable, there wouldn't be so many companies. There wouldn't be so many companies. You're talking about an industry worth over $23 billion. Why is it worth why is it making $23 billion? It's profitable. Why do every second day you hear of a new company coming out? It's profitable. But what do we do? Alhamdulillah, we don't gamble. But we need to ensure that we're not doing any type of gambling, things that people may consider innocent like raffles, or even with our children. Even with our children, we need to teach them things that are gambling and not gambling. When we were younger, we had the Tazas. You remember Tazas? Marbles. You play marbles, I versus you versus me, the winner takes the other person's marble. That's gambling. That's a gambling. What do the kids have today? But this is kids are playing that at school. This is a form of gambling. People are playing that at school. I remember that it used to be one game where, I can't remember what we were using, maybe it was Tazas as well. But you throw it to the wall. And the closest it gets to the wall, the one who gets it like closest to the wall, wins and takes everyone else's. That's a form of gambling. That's a form of gambling. Naam. When we go to the festivals today, even the Eid festivals, which is similar to what the brother is talking about. Even you get to the Eid festival, there's sections or there are games where you pay, for example, $5, you shoot the ducks. You shoot X amount of ducks, you get this particular prize. And if you miss or you don't get enough, then you don't get anything at all. Or for example, you pay $5 and you get to pick up a duck. And the number on the bottom of the duck, if it's a prize, you get a prize. If it's nothing, then you lose your $5. This is all form of gambling. This is all haram. All of this is haram. And I really hope that the organizers of the Eid festivals don't have this. Most of them, they use the excuse that when we bring the company, just so we know, when we hire this company to bring all the rides, they put that there also. But that's not an Islamic justification. You either force them not to put it, or even if they say no, we have to have it here, you say, okay, we don't want it there. It's better not to have any Eid festival than to have a Eid festival with a big portion of haram in there. If we look at the results and the consequences of gambling, recently there was an article in the newspaper where a man had won over $400 million. He had won over $400 million. And obviously after a few years, he goes broke. His granddaughter, I believe, died because of the lifestyle that she started to live. It caused a divorce between him and his wife, blah, 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 blah. At the end, there's nothing left. He says, I wish I never won the lottery. As Muslims, we need to first and foremost from Allah Azza wa Jal, that what Allah chooses for us is enough. And say Alhamdulillah that we're Muslims and abide by the laws of Allah Azza wa Jal and the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But also we learn from these people. We learn from these examples. If you just type in on Google, people that regret winning the lottery, let's type it in on Google or something along those lines. It will give you a list of people that won $10 million, some that won $20 million, some won $1 million, and they continuously say, I wish I never won that money. We're sitting there saying, oh man, what a lucky person. He won, paid $10 for a lottery ticket, he got 100 million or $20 million or whatever it is. That was the start of their problems, because there's no barakah in that wealth. There's no barakah in that wealth. And if you ask any person, would you cherish, what would you prefer? 400 million or to be happy? If you're already happy and content, you don't know what it feels like to lose it. So when these people win this money and then they become depressed and lonely, and that $400 million means absolutely nothing to them, they say, take it all away, I don't want it. Just give me back my normal life, just so I can sleep properly again. Those ages ago, we learned in Australia that one guy that won the lottery and then they kidnapped his son and killed his son because they knew he was rich. That was ages ago. Recent cases all the time. There was a guy, I think it was even Muslim, unfortunately, in England who won the lottery. He got outcasted from his community because everyone knew that he had haram wealth. His wife and children became corrupt. He had to go to another woman. That ended up tragically. Another person gets it, starts partying, blows all his money on drugs, ends up with nothing. Another couple I read, beautiful marriage, never had a problem, never had an argument. They win the lottery, buy a beautiful house. A fire went in that house. The house was uninsured. They lost money on the house. The wife accused the husband of seeing or being interested in other women. The husband drove away in the Porsche and both their lives were wrecked. She says, I wish I never won the lottery because our lives were fine before that. So as Muslims, we shouldn't wish for these types of things and say, oh Allah, I wish I was done this and I wish I'd done that. I know a man on his deathbed, he was still playing scratches. On his deathbed, still playing scratches because he's hoping that he's going to win something. Another person I know, these are people, these are stories that we know. These are either well documented stories or people that we know. One man I know, he won maybe, I think he said maybe before I was even born. Maximum in the early 90s, maximum, and I think it was before that even. He won $25,000 from a scratchy. Him winning that $25,000, especially back then, was like a big thing. Naam, alhamdulillah, he won $25,000. Obviously, that $25,000 went very quickly. And he's been buying scratches in stacks every day since that, hoping he's going to what? Get lucky again. Even if you won $25,000, how much do you think is going to be, how much do you think you've spent on scratches after that, which is, if there was anything, it's all cancelled out by tons that they've benefited and that you've lost. So these are really sad realities. These are really sad realities that we need to make ourselves aware of and make our children and others aware of. طيب. What about one-way bets? One-way bets. One-way bet is like a prize. Okay? I told you, listen, verse me in a game of rugby league. All right? If I win, you have to buy me dinner. But if you win, there's nothing. Khalas. There's nothing there. There's like a one-way bet. There's only one person that's going to win. And there's no one that's losing. No one's going to lose. And he's given like a prize. This is no problem. This is no problem, inshallah. Or a person says, look, I'll give you $20 if you can make that shot. And in basketball, I'll give you $20. But if he doesn't make that shot, he doesn't lose anything. There's no issue. There's no issue with that. Because the gambling is when the parties themselves put in that money and then there's a winner and there's a loser. Or there's a chance of one winning and one losing. That's when it's not allowed. As for when it's a one-way bet where one person puts in the money and then either the people can win or nothing happens, he just keeps the money or the prize, and that's no issue, inshallah. There are exceptions in the Sharia, like horse riding, camel riding, running, arrows, etc. These are here, the Sharia has made allowed, as the Prophet ﷺ said, but with conditions. And that's studied in the books of fiqh. But it's got its own conditions. But generally speaking, a person is not allowed to gamble with anything, no matter how minor it may be or how innocent a person may say it to be.
فبالله كم تستطب القروح ويبرأ جروح الكثير الجريح وينشط ذاك السقيم العليل وقد كان بالسقم دهرا